Well, hello and welcome to this episode of the Terri Cole Show that I want to start with a question. Could you use a little more happiness in your life? Do you kind of feel like your happiness quotient is kind of low? Well, if you're nodding your head, then you, my friend, are not alone and you're in the right place. Because in today's episode, I'm going to be walking you through 4 simple steps that you can take to create more happiness for yourself. Before we get started, if you're new to my channel, please make sure that you subscribe and that you hit that bell so that every time I roll out something new, you will get a notification. Right? This is all ways for you to up-level the joy, the happiness, the health in your life, and I don't want you to miss a thing. And if you are new here and you don't know me, my name is Terri Cole. I'm a licensed psychotherapist, relationship expert, and the author of Boundary Boss, which is right there, which you can get at boundarybossbook.com. And I also want to acknowledge all of you for all of your questions and comments on this YouTube channel. We are a very active group, and if you're new here, please introduce yourself because we're also a friendly group. And each episode, I love to highlight one of your comments. So today, under the episode called Signs of Abandonment Issues, I am highlighting Inez's comment. And she says, right info at the right time. Just started your Real Love Revolution course and filled out my love blueprint. This is the most painful yet eye-opening questionnaire I have filled out in my life. This video clarified that I have a father wound, but my mother wound is a lot bigger. Lots of work to go through. I'm finally ready to tackle it, get clarity, and move forward into a positive and loving future. There is so much resistance and curiosity inside me at once. Yesterday I heard you say, "I see you." It cut through my heart and I started sobbing. This one sentence, expressed with so much empathy, love, and kindness, gave me access to a tightly guarded space in my heart. Thank you, Terri, for helping me heal and access my traumatized heart. Your work is impacting me big time. God bless. Inez, I'm so excited and thank you for sharing because that super warms my heart. I really do appreciate you guys sharing how the work is helping you, because that is my whole entire trip in life, is to help you. So let's move into today's content. So the first question is, are you looking for happiness in all the wrong places? What I find with my therapy clients and people in my courses is that we're looking outside of ourselves so much of the time rather than looking in. It's like looking to the other people in our lives to fulfill us or to sort of fill up that happiness quotient. But here's the thing, and here's the problem with that. Deep contentment and happiness, just like real love, can only come from within. Right? So when you think about it, I always talk about self-love as the only path to real love or to any other healthy love, because there's a part of you that can only be filled up with self-love. There's a part of you inside. And this is the same thing with happiness. It doesn't mean that we don't get joy, that we don't get contentment, that we don't get camaraderie and all the things we get in our relationships. But the thing is, they cannot be the only place where you are filling up your happiness bucket. Because here's the thing that, and I think it was Wayne Dyer who said, the problem with getting all of this external validation or joy from other people is that it's amazing when it's coming your way from them, but then they also have the power to take it away. So we must be responsible for our own happiness, really. It's getting our worth and our value and joy from how we relate to others, right? That is the problem, if that's the main place where you're getting it. And that particular piece of this really points to codependency. And I see this all the time. And there's this quote, and I think they say it's unknown, but it's basically saying, don't put the keys to your happiness in someone else's pocket. And I just think that is so smart, and it's such an easy way to remember what we're talking about here today. So I'm going to be giving you some ideas of how you can turn this around so that you can lessen your own suffering and increase your own happiness and joy, really on your own from the inside out, which also obviously attracts more joy into your life. So I first want to start with having you really think about, what does happiness mean to you? Right? For my estimation, as a psychotherapist, happiness is the heightened sense of contentment. Right? And I love the contentment. I feel like contentment is just as important as happiness. So it's mental, physical, and emotional well-being, right? It's making choices that create a sense of safety and feeling deeply satisfied, knowing that your life has meaning, right? These are all important aspects of happiness. But if you really find yourself on a regular basis thinking, well, if everyone else is good and they all have what they need, then I'm okay, or my job is done here. Because if that sounds really familiar or is resonating with you, then I want you to consider that you might just be hanging your happiness on the actions and reactions and responses of the other people in your life. So one root cause of this, as I said at the top, is codependency. This behavior of codependency, it is not healthy behavior. It's like a dysfunctional way of relating in our relationships. So many of us were taught to prioritize the wants and needs, the desires of other people above our own. This was what we learned growing up in our homes. I mean, how much of the time did you hear, be kind? And that, I mean, I was saying this in one of my other episodes that someone told me, or maybe it was in one of my courses. Anyway, someone told me that, the brownie troops, right? Little girls can be in these things. It's like the Boy Scouts, but for little girls, that one of their mottos is like, always think about other people before yourself. And I was like, wow, that is so unhealthy. It doesn't mean don't be considerate of others, obviously, but to vilify thinking about ourselves, to vilify focusing on our needs and our wants is really, really not healthy. And this is where we were trained. Really, what do I love to say? Raised and praised for being self-abandoning codependents. Most of us, especially if you identify as a woman and you were raised as a girl, you were most likely, no matter what country you live in, raised and praised for being a self-abandoning codependent. And I have taught my courses to people in many, many, many countries. Like, I think we're at 190 at this point. And I've never had one person say, oh no, I learned to take care of myself first because then I would actually have something to give to other people. Nobody in any country has so far said this. So we know that this is really an epidemic of behavior. So, and we've all heard that compliment, right? Someone will say, oh my God, you would love her. She's amazing. She would give you the shirt off her back. As if that is like this beautiful act of generosity. But giving anyone the shirt off your back, what does that do? It leaves you half naked, freezing, and it really does smack of codependency. So think about real generosity. What is that? This is a beautiful virtue. But there is a difference between giving from a place of people-pleasing or a place of fear or conflict avoidance and giving from a place of love, right? They're not the same thing. So we can't mine our own happiness and our own sense of self-worth from others forever. It just doesn't work because eventually this kind of codependency blows up in resentment and conflict. Really, when you think about it, no matter if you are overgiving in your relationship, then you will eventually feel underappreciated, right? If you are giving, I love to say, giving is loving. Overgiving is dysfunctional. And these are all attributes that fall into the codependency category, right? What is codependency? It is outwardly focused, right? Basing our own contentment on what happiness in our lives, right, equates to, if other people are happy, then we are happy. And here's the thing with codependency. It is so sneaky. I mean, I'm a recovering codependent. And actually, many of you know I have a course with Mark Groves. And actually, we have a new one starting tomorrow. So if that is interesting to you, go to terricole.com/cc and join us. It is not too late. But Mark and I came together around codependency. He had heard one of my episodes on codependency. This is when I didn't know him a bunch of years ago. And he just got in touch with me and was like, I feel like we're kindred spirits because we're both recovering codependents and realize how much this sneaky dysfunction of codependency can literally take over your life, but also talk about just sucking the happiness and joy out of your life. So with the codependency stuff, I want you to think about it this way. If you are overly invested in the feeling states, the outcomes, the circumstances, the decisions of the people in your life to the detriment of your own internal peace, your own physical or financial well-being, that is codependency. And if you wonder, if you're sitting here saying, well, I don't know, I mean, aren't we all invested in the happiness of the people we love? Of course we are. Not necessarily to the detriment of your own internal peace, though. So that is really the defining piece. But you also want to think about your level of urgency. So if your best friend or if your grown child or if whoever gets in touch with you and they have a bad situation, they're in trouble, they need help, if that problem for them immediately puts you into action, if it really feels like that is now their problem has actually become your problem, that is codependency. Because a lot of times we feel like our giving is a choice. It is very egocentric, we call it, like it's aligned with how we want to see ourselves. And certainly for me in my 20s, I was like, oh, I'm just giving like that. I'm just loving like that. But what I didn't realize until I had a lot of therapy was that it was a compulsive, like I was driven to behave in this codependent way with other people, whether they were my family, whether they were my close friends, or whether it was like my hairdresser. I mean, really, I was really indiscriminate as to who I would feel responsible for. It was like I felt responsible for the happiness of the whole entire world, which of course is ridiculous now, and I can look back at it. But at the time, I didn't have that macro view. I was just going by what was driving my behavior. So just know that there is this codependency itself really acts in this covert way. And I don't want you to think about codependency as only like the Melody Beattie codependent no more type of codependency, because that it is so much more than that. Meaning you don't have to be involved with an addict. It's not all about enabling, right? There are other ways, like overfunctioning. I came up with the term high-functioning codependent because that is what I was, and that's what I'm recovering from. And I created that for my clients because they didn't identify with being codependent, because they're like, doesn't that mean you have to be in a relationship with an alcoholic, right? Because that's an old school definition. But really what it means is that you're so highly capable, you're doing it all, making it look easy, but the truth, and underneath the hood, you are doing it at your own expense. And again, even if you're super duper capable, trust me, you cannot do it forever. At least that's my experience. So let's talk about things that you can do to make these shifts. How to create your own happiness. Well, the first thing is kind of getting rid of the thing like codependency that like sucks your happiness away. So the first thing I'm going to ask you to do is to raise your awareness. And I've created a couple of questions that you can answer. Take a closer look at your relationships, right? Who are you playing out these patterns with? Who do you feel overly responsible for. Because raising your awareness is something that is always the first step to any bit of transformation that we are seeking. The second thing you can do is create self-love actions, but getting clear about what you love, about what you want, about what makes you happy. And it's doing these things that bring you small and big joy or happiness. But they got to be only for you, because what I see with my clients, my therapy clients, and what I've saw with myself is that it's almost like if I had something that made me happy or made me feel good, I could never just have it for myself. I would immediately be telling my sisters about it or feel like, well, I'm going to go do this thing, or even just get my nails done. I'd be like, do you want to come with me? Like there was something wrong with doing something simply for yourself. So upping your own self-love actions that are only for you is very helpful. Another way of creating a sense of deeper self-esteem or a more solid core is I want you to brag it up, is what I like to call it. Now, most of us raised to not brag, but what I'm really saying here, and you might have heard of a brag book, that's something where you put your accomplishments in it. If people say lovely things to you, how you've helped them or what a good job that you did, we keep them in one place. So when we're feeling low on happiness or low on self-esteem, we can go to this brag book and it will fill up that cup. Because when you're in that situation where you're trying to control things that are out of your control, which is so much of what codependency is, think about it. It's a covert or overt bid to control the outcomes of other people. We don't want them making mistakes. We want to help them. But think about it. It's because the drive to do that is because their life being out of control creates an uncomfortable feeling for you. So I want you to start thinking about what you can do that's outside of adding value exclusively to other people's lives. There are things that you have done in your life that you're proud of, and that I want you to remember that by creating this little brag book. The last thing I want to talk about is perfectionism is also sort of can come along with codependency, or I find that a lot of my clients who suffer from perfectionism also suffer from codependency. So we're really going to just create a difference, a distinction between striving for excellence and perfectionism. Because the truth about perfectionism and perfection is that it doesn't exist in life. We are all fallible. We are all human beings. We will all make mistakes. So if you suffer from perfectionism, we're really going to strive for excellence instead. Because here's the thing, if you never allow yourself to make mistakes, if it's so devastating if you make a mistake, how can you ever learn new things? You can't. Life is messy. Love is messy. Human beings are messy. And that is real talk. That is just the truth. So if you really want to go further on this road to recovery from codependency, I really hope that you will join Mark and myself for our Crushing Codependency course. So we're getting started on tomorrow, actually. So there's still plenty of time for you to join us. Go to terricole.com/CC. And to get this week's guide, go to terricole.com/guide. I want to say thank you for spending time with me today, because I super appreciate you. And as always, take care of you.